Allen Graves is the analytics darling of the 2026 NBA Draft. This is Floor and Ceiling. Let's break him down. Allen Graves from Santa Clara has arguably seen the biggest rise of any player in the 2026 NBA Draft. Scouts who rely heavily on advanced stats and draft models have Graves pegged as one of the top prospects this year. At his best, Graves is a capable play finisher, especially from 3, having made more than 41% of his triples this season. He has connective feel on both ends, as well as enticing defensive production. This also comes while offering decent positional size, barely turning the ball over, and really crashing the boards. Graves' work on the offensive glass stands out in particular. However, I still have some serious questions about why Graves' numbers are so much better than his tape. On offense, I find that the Santa Clara freshman doesn't offer any self-creation. I'm unsure about his finishing at the rim, and his three-point shooting feels one-dimensional while on relatively low volume. Then, on defense, Graves definitely racks up numbers and makes good reads, but it's in a hedge-heavy scheme that really favors him. Graves still fouls a lot, he has a tendency to gamble, his foot speed has concerned me, and I'm not sure that he has the athletic tools to recover a lot of the time. In many ways, Graves' NBA role still feels like a huge question mark, though there is plenty to like with his defense, connectivity, and three-point shooting. Allen Graves was a really efficient scorer who got his points at the rim and from 3. Starting from the outside, Graves' three-point shot looks repeatable, though I worry about the speed. He might not have the most aesthetic prep getting the ball into his shooting pocket, but I think he organizes his upper body well, even though I don't love the footwork. This season, Graves was largely used as a standstill shooter by Santa Clara, spotting up, or in pick and pops. He drilled about 42% of his catch and shoot threes, which is great. If Graves keeps proving that he's able to attack space and punish closeouts, this will give him a stable path towards remaining on the floor. That said, I wish his three-point shooting was quicker and more versatile. I don't think that Graves is a 40+% shooter, though I think he'll be fine from deep. Then, closer to the rim, Graves has secure hands to catch passes around the dunker spot or on the roll and then finish. He also showed signs of an in-between game with a hook shot and sort of a runner or pusher. Frankly, I'm more focused on the latter since the hook mostly comes out of the post, and I think those reps will be eliminated. But still, as you can see below, Graves' scoring was mostly finishing plays from deep, as well as below the rim at the basket. I really appreciated Graves' motor on the glass this season, especially with his offensive rebounding. The Santa Clara freshman did a great job at making multiple efforts and truly sticking with his crashes. Sure, Graves lacks sheer size and pop, but he was able to offset that this year with his motor, hands, and strength. He's also disciplined when it comes to trying to win inside position, even if he can't always achieve that against bigger or more athletic opponents. Thinking ahead, I'm not convinced that Graves is going to be as impactful of a rebounder when he's not mostly playing the 5, but he'll probably rebound better than most wings if he has the liberty to crash and the rest of his offense holds up to keep him on the floor. As a playmaker, Graves is a connective passer who doesn't turn the ball over. This is hard to find at his size and position, especially when you pair that with his rebounding, defensive metrics, and three-point shooting. It also comes at a time when lots of scouts and front offices are paying more attention to the concept of turnover aversion, though winning the possession battle has always been a staple in basketball. In 35 games this year, on 22% usage, the Santa Clara freshman only accumulated 25 turnovers. Getting into the tape, as a passer, Graves does a good job at finding cutters with accuracy. I'll note that he played with his back to the basket more in college than I expect to see going forward, but Graves' reads were definitely good. Also around the basket here, Graves can get the offensive rebound and then find the open man. Of course, we can't wrap up on Graves' strengths without discussing his defensive production and off-ball flashes. To start with, his numbers were really unique, posting a 4.9 steal rate and a 5.0 block rate. Even just reducing those to 4%, no other player this season posted those numbers, as well as a 1.5 assist to turnover ratio this season. Diving into the film, Graves generally understands when he can help off his man, and he can be very disruptive with his verticality, hands, and strength. I really like how he can recover balls after getting the block or the deflection, which popped out on tape. Overall, Graves has quick reactions and good feel. He anticipates attackers at the basket, disrupts poor reads, and blows up inaccurate passes. As I've been saying, Graves was hugely productive in Santa Clara's hedge-heavy system. He executed that quite well, but it is important to note that it also didn't allow for much evaluation of him guarding in space or switching onto ball handlers. Going forward, I'm still interested in Graves as sort of a backline roamer where he can help off his man and create havoc, kind of like this year, but that fit is easier said than done, and he might have to conform to a more traditional NBA system. I think my biggest question with Allen Graves is how real his scoring is and whether it's sustainable in the NBA. From deep, I'm looking at Graves' relatively low volume on 6.7 threes per 100 possessions. Sure, it's encouraging that his percentages stayed high as his volume ticked up towards the end of the season, but I need to see more. I'm also not very convinced by the Santa Clara freshman's free throw shooting, which initially was honestly sort of a weak point for him. Then, as I've been saying, it's also the fact that Graves is primarily a standstill shooter. There's very little variance to his catch and shoots, and this is reflected in the tape. Plus, Graves didn't really take any corner threes, and all of his outside shots were assisted. Closer to the basket, Graves made about 62% of his shots there, but that number actually dips to 52% when considering just layups. This also shows up in Graves' film, as I feel that he had a considerable amount of misses right at the rim, where his touch I thought was lacking. On a similar note, I felt like the 19-year-old had to turn to that push shot or hook shot that I mentioned earlier more than I would like, because he couldn't get close enough to the basket otherwise. As a whole, I'm worried that Graves cannot create advantages off the bounce as a scorer or as a playmaker. For instance, he took no dribble jumpers as a freshman. Obviously, it's good to know your limitations, so I'm not just encouraging Graves to do something he's not good at, but there's also a reason that those limitations exist. Looking at his ball handling, Graves really has a tendency to turn drives into post-ups. That's because he cannot get past his man a lot of the time, or create a clean look for himself fairly often. With Graves' passing, much like his threes or his scoring in general, it's mostly coming from a standstill. I definitely consider Graves to be a high-field player who can see the floor, but I do wonder what passes are going to be available to him when his post-ups are reduced in favor of spot-ups, his advantages at the rim might decline, and he cannot really put the ball on the floor right now. Graves is a shrewd decision maker, but again on pretty low volume, and I think that's for a reason. Finally, I have questions over Graves' defensive fit despite his outstanding numbers. The biggest thing is that he fouled far too much at 5.3 fouls per 40 minutes. Getting into the context, Graves mostly played the 5 for Santa Clara. In a hedge-heavy system, you don't really see that much in the NBA. So the question is, can he straight up guard wings, and can he switch onto ball handlers? In my opinion, Graves' flashes in space were not very encouraging. On the ball, you can see his relatively slow foot speed with his lack of lift and length. Then, Graves has a tendency to reach in as well. Off the ball, he's foul prone without that many recovery tools, a probable athletic deficit against many NBA wings, and a likely size disadvantage against most NBA bigs. Graves also gambles too much for my liking, and then he can't recover, which puts his defense in rotation. So really, I think that Graves' advanced stats, raw numbers, and scheme overstate where his defense is at, without offering a clear answer on his defensive fit at the next level. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment telling me what you think of Allen Graves, make sure to subscribe to the Floor and Ceiling Substack, and if you want to watch more videos like this, subscribe to the channel as well. Take care, and I'll catch you guys next time.